You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Juliet Obi.
Hey.
You literally have the best name I think possible. See, Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, one of my favorite plays, and then also Obi from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh my God. Okay. I should tell you. Okay. So Obi is actually a very popular Nigerian surname. So I'm from Nigeria, originally from Nigeria. So, but yeah, Obi-Wan. Yeah. People tell me that, but thank you.
I figured it was like something Nigerian when it came to the Obi part, but then every time I say Obi, I immediately want to finish it with Wan Kenobi for some reason. My brain just connects it to that. I mean, that's cool though. So originally coming now were you from there? Like did you move here or
Yes, I moved in 2017 from Nigeria for further education, actually. So I moved from Nigeria to start my master's in 2017, and guess what? I moved from tropical Nigeria all the way to Vermont. Um,
that's a culture shift there. Moving from the tropics to basically an area that's like kind of the complete opposite. I mean, there are some trees out there, but they don't really have leaves because it's cold as hell.
yes, it is. So I did my master's there. I was in Vermont for 2 years, and then I left Vermont last year, and then I moved to Maryland. Warmer, definitely.
Wait, you
uh,
moved to Maryland?
yes, so I'm
Where
currently in Maryland now.
where exactly in Maryland?
Baltimore.
I'm in Ocean City, Maryland.
Ooh, okay, that's
We're,
cool.
we're like 3 hours away.
Yeah.
You know
So
what that
I did.
means.
Yeah, I know what that means.
That
You don't
that's
have to tell
interesting.
me.
When it comes to even moving down here for your master's, what was like the culture shift there? Because I think I've spoken to a lot of people from all over, but Nigeria is not one I'm not too familiar with.
Yes, yes, I am yet to find anybody that did the same thing. And it was hard, honestly, but I am one person that likes to take challenges. It's something I always tell myself that I like to like take up new challenges. So when that challenge came, I thought it was gonna be it's just gonna be one of those things, but it was hard, especially because I actually moved in the winter. I moved on the 12th of December 2017 to Vermont. I will never forget that day, and it was snowing heavily that day, and I was shook, literally. And I was kind of homesick anyway for like a week or two, and I was indoors. I didn't want to go outside at all, and well, I kind of got used to it. After some time, you kind of get used to it.
Well, when you're studying your master's, like you're coming over here to finish your degree, what exactly are you getting your degree in?
Okay, so I'm a pharmacist by training. So I got my pharmacy degree in Nigeria. Okay, sorry. This is, an interesting background. So I got my pharmacy degree in Ghana, even though I am Nigerian. So I crossed the border and I went to Ghana and I got my pharmacy degree and I came back to Nigeria and I got licensed because you have to, apart from doing the pharmacy professional degree, you also have to write the licensing exam to get licensed as a pharmacist. So I got licensed in my own country in Nigeria and I worked as a pharmacist for 2 years. And then I then moved because I love pharmacy, but I always wanted to get more involved in research. So the research of drugs. So researching into like development of novel drugs. It's something I always wanted to do. I wasn't really interested in like the retail pharmacy, like working in Walgreens or CVS or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I wanted to do more of like the uh, behind the scenes thing, which is being a scientist. So I decided to come and do my master's in pharmaceutical sciences for 2 years, and now I'm doing my PhD actually in pharmaceutical sciences.
Yeah, when you talk about pharmaceutical science, you want to be on more of the aspect of dealing, like when someone says the name, you want to be thinking microscope, not convenience store. Okay.
Yes, you're
I think
thinking microscope. You're
yeah, because I
thinking,
think most of the time someone says pharmacist, I usually think of like the person at CVS or Rite Aid or something that's giving me my prescription that really
yeah.
doesn't seem like they want to be there at all. Like
It's stressful.
every time I'm like, "Can I get a refill?" They're like, "Did you call it in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I called in like a half hour ago. It'll be ready in 10 minutes." I'm like, "What?" And they're just like, "I don't really care about you, so I'm just gonna let you
Oh,
come
I'm
back."
sorry on
I
behalf of the pharmacist.
I literally every time I go to pick up a prescription, I just look at her. I'm like, "Can you just like one time just be super enthusiastic? Like you look like you hate your job." But recently they got some new people there that
Oh.
she's a really nice lady. She's like, "I'll get you anything you need, sweetie." I'm like, "Sweet." And then she's handing me like 5 pill bottles. I'm like, "I don't even take all these. Honestly, I just pick them up for the fun of it."
Yeah, I mean it's of course it's down to the person. I just already figured. I think I'm lucky to say that. I figured that if I did that, I'm gonna be frustrated my whole life. And I just like, you know what, I really need to pursue what I want to do, and I'm actually happy I'm doing that right now because I wouldn't want to do anything else
But how did
actually.
you get started in wanting to do pharmacy in general? Like, is that popular down in Nigeria where you're from? Is that like something that's a big issue down there? Because over here, I think what really sucks is the way we choose to use pharmaceuticals seems like to be the answer cure all to everything. I know right now in the trend is becoming like the main importance that like pharmaceutical or big pharma is bad and all these types of like, hemp and cannabis are the way to go. But I'm like, there's obviously some things that a prescription drug is needed for. Like, people that suffer from an internal issue that can't be fixed through marijuana or something. So I'm like, a lot of the times they get a bad rep. I've heard from a few pharmacists about
Yeah.
how kind of sketchy the industry is. And I'm like, I don't think it's everyone. I think it's just we need more pharmacists that are actually truly here to help people and realize, like, holy crap, like there is a big issue going on. I think there needs to be more outspoken voices for it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, what you said is true, and I actually didn't realize that as well until I moved here. That's the issue, the big pharma issue in the US. And I think what makes it more difficult is the um relationship between the big pharma and the insurance companies. It's let's not even talk about insurance in the United States. But yeah, so it's I think it's because it's mainly for profit. Like you said, it's not everybody, but unfortunately, the big pharma, they are out there to make money, But even though literally the patient should be the the ultimate goal, but even at that, if your patient or if people cannot have access, not only access, but they cannot afford drugs for what they need, and everything has to go through insurance, and then at the end of the day they even die from thinking about insurance and affording the drugs than the actual um, issue they have. It's a problem, and as a scientist or as a future scientist, it's also something that, for example, as a researcher, you do all the work, you do the behind the scenes work, and then when a drug is developed, it's up to the big pharma to manufacture like it's in big batches and then start selling it and everything. So honestly, I don't know. I just feel like policy is something that is important. So I feel like when I think about my future as a scientist, I really want to get involved in science policy, meaning how as a scientist would you help for um, patients to kind of get the best out of their drug, something like that. So I feel like it still goes, everything goes down to policy. So I feel like we all need to get, as a scientist, as pharmacists, we need to get more involved, like you said, in policies that make these things happen. And your previous question about Nigeria, yeah, there are a lot of pharmacists in Nigeria, and how I became interested in pharmacy was honestly I was never interested in pharmacy. I just wanted to do something in science. Back in high school, I was kind of like good in science, in math, engineering. I actually wanted to do engineering at first, but honestly, just to say this, my dad was like, "No, you're gonna look good as a pharmacist. Pharmacist is gonna look good on you, so you should do pharmacy." And I'm like, "Okay." Then I did it.
That's like when someone asked me what I wanted to be as a kid, and I was like president, and then I also said golfer, and they're like, I don't know what you mean by how do you go from being president to being golfing? I'm like, look, they both technically do the same thing. I've seen the president golf more times than I think I can count. So, I mean, that's why I was wondering because was it an interest that was, I guess, related to you more on like where you're from? I know a lot of kids nowadays, like it's just about choosing a safe job. Like,
Right.
which one's going to get me a career path? Which one's going to make sure I never have to worry about a bill? And I think that's why a lot of people choose
Mm-hmm.
these jobs.
True.
And it makes it difficult because if you're doing it for a paycheck, you're never truly going to care about it.
That is
Like
correct.
so many pharmacists now, like the ones I'm talking about that don't seem like they really care, at least where I'm at, it's because they just did it just so it's a paycheck. Like, they just look beaten and broken down. Like, the new
Mm-hmm.
person we got is so fresh. Like, it's like that baby personality where it's like, "I'll do anything you want me to." Like the first 2 weeks of the
Yeah.
job, you're everybody's best friend. I'm like, "Just
Mm-hmm.
give it a month. She's gonna be, like, beaten and broken down like the rest of them." They all seem like they have shattered dreams. I'm like, well, how can we fix this? Because like if it's really, really like I dread going into a pharmacy to get a prescription, I think we've already did this a pretty bad way.
Yeah, I think there are many faces to the problem. Because another thing I learned about is obviously like the loans. Like I have friends. Like I did my master's at the School of Pharmacy. I'm doing my PhD at the School of Pharmacy. So I still interact with many. I have many of my friends are going to the pharmacy school, and many of them complain. Like they're thinking about the loans that the student loans they take, and then when they finish, many of them have to go into retail pharmacy because like I feel like that's the fastest paying and that's like what's going to get you the money right away, six figures money, and then you start paying off your loan. So I feel like they all get so stressed from the word go. And I don't know, it's just
It's a stressful job. You don't need to explain to me. Not even on the loan factors, which you see everybody going in debt over college loans. They're not even done paying it off until they're like 40. But the
right.
freaking name of the prescription drug is like 80 syllables long. You can't even pronounce it. Can I get myself some amoxicillin hubble? You're like, like, what did you just ask? Can I get you to repeat that? I'm like, I couldn't even if I tried.
Right. Oh, that's not too. If well, you're right. Like if you're passionate about the profession, amoxicillin and clavulanic acid. That's what you were trying to say anyway. It it's if it's something you're passionate about and interested in, it should not be a problem. Like you said, I think it's more like some people just do it for the paycheck, and when they come out, they are the ones that you see that are not interested. They're the ones that are kind of rude to, the patients and stuff like that. You can kind of tell if someone is really in their job because they're passionate about it, or if they're just doing it to just do the 9 to 5 and go home.
Yeah, well, since you're passionate about this field, I was hoping that maybe you can enlighten at least me and a little bit more of the audience if I guess a benefit of what it is about pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, a lot of the
Mhm.
times, like, I mean, I can sit here and spout off a million different things about what's bad and what people always hear
Yeah.
that's bad, but I'm like, let's maybe try and shift it to what is a benefit also, because I definitely see that there is one. I think just the way we take it as a society is that we've been taking a pill for way too long. And it's like, oh, more pills, more pills, more pills. I mean, we have an objective in our mind to do immortality. I mean, we
Yes.
all want to live forever, hair growth, whatever. We all want to be young and beautiful forever. And I'm like, it's not meant for us. I think it's cool that we live to be 100 and stuff, but I think the best part about life is that it does have an ending to it.
Yeah. Um. I think it's well as a trained pharmacist and someone passionate about pharmacy and drugs. I personally think that it people needs to start taking this from a holistic approach, meaning that if maybe someone is suffering from a particular disease, um, it's not just drugs that's gonna make the person whole. I feel like there are so many things to the problem. There are so many things you need to look at, and I think it's also on a case by case basis. But the fact that um, many people think drugs or the pharmaceuticals are maybe like a lie. Many of them are like, I've heard that many people come up with conspiracy theories about, like, they're selling us lies, they're selling us drugs. I think that's on the part of the big pharma, the insurance companies, depending on the country, to gain the trust. Because, like I said, let's even go to vaccines. Vaccination is also a problem. Many people don't believe in vaccine. We still have the issue of bringing awareness to people that vaccines do not cause autism and everything. So it still goes down to gaining the trust um, from the public. And in my own opinion, I think science communication, I think that's actually where you saw that's where you found me actually on my page. That's actually why I started my science communication page. I, I think that we in the field need to break the bridge, or communicate more to the public so that they can actually see that what we're doing is for good.
Well, it's
What
like
we're doing.
you're under an umbrella. Pharmacists are under an umbrella right now. And what I mean by umbrella is we hate pharmaceutical industry, but we don't hate the pharmacists. But what happens is you guys get linked into our hatred for the pharmaceutical side. All the dark stuff we hear about immediately it goes on you. So when you put on that lab coat and we see you, all we think of is, oh, you guys are just doing this or getting people addicted to all these things. It's like, hang on a second, that's not you. It's the same.
Exactly.
Well, we do that with everything. Whenever we hear about something happening, like for instance, what's with the riots going on, it's
Yes.
everybody in that under that one group that's getting stigmatized or getting whatever media blown back on them and shown as bad. It's like, hang on a second, hang on a second. This is a selective few people. Don't judge all over the,
Yeah.
I guess, the actions of a few. And I think what's important is people like you that are passionate and actually interested in a subject like this that are willing to show a different side of things. I think
Yeah.
what you're saying about certain case by case scenarios, I see the biggest problem in the medical industry. And let me tell you, I can't even count on both my hands how many times the medical industry has screwed me over. I'm dealing with something still now where it's been about 6 months. I've been trying to
Right.
get a prescription that apparently I don't qualify for, even though I've jumped through every single hoops and every single whatever. I've had to take all the appeal processes. Every single one got denied, and then COVID hit, and then all the court systems got locked down. But let me tell you something. When it comes to getting a drug that you need for
Yeah.
your body to function, there are
Yeah.
some people out there that are suffering from gastrointestinal issues or certain body organ issues where their organs are not capable to work. Now, you cannot take marijuana, you can't take CBD, it might not help. Now, this is where a pharmaceutical drug is necessary, such as an example of gastroenteritis or whatever it's called. I think it's gastroenteritis.
Yeah. Gastroenteritis.
So that's a part of your intestine usually is not working. So imagine having, like, let's say a drain. Okay. You have a clog in your drain about maybe 3/4 of the way down, right before it gets to that ending part where it goes all the way through. So now you're having water flood. So you need to go fix that. You need to go in there and you need to fix that. Now, just blowing smoke in there is not going to do that. It might cause the muscles to maybe retract and be able to relax. But a lot of the
Right.
times, there's a part of it that's like dead tissue. It's not working. But what can happen is if you take a prescriptive pill such as Amitiza or such as what is that other one for IBS? Oh man, that's gonna kill me if I can't think of that one. Starts with an L. Oh, help me, Juliet.
I'm sorry. I've been out of this pharmacy. Okay.
Oh, it starts with an L. Oh
That's
God.
an L.
This is gonna kill me to the end of the podcast. But no, whatever that drug is, for example, I'll think of it later. Trust me, it'll be like 30 minutes from now. I'll pop it back in. um that drug, what happens is it helps stimulate and release a lot of the tension that is caused with symptoms of IBS, which helps you go to the
Mhm.
bathroom for a lot of people that suffer constipation or a lot of people that can't control themselves. I look at a drug like that and I'm like, that's very beneficial to a lot of people. But I think what happens is for so long, when the pharmacy industry was first kind of approaching onto the market, like early 2000s and stuff, there were so many scams people were doing to get pills. I mean, it's an easy fix for a doctor to prescribe something to help you with pain, but I think it's not the doctor's fault either.
Right.
And that takes a
Mhm.
lot for me to say that, but I think it's a factor of the way the world is working now. there are so many time restraints, so many things to hit by a deadline, so many things just to hurry up and get on to the next patient. That communication aspect, the most important thing, not only with people, but also with the medical industry, is really, really missing. And I think there is a way to fix it, but I'm trying to understand how and what would be the first step.
It's just like you said. It's also something that I feel like I'm still trying to figure out. Like you said, or maybe there needs to be a platform to bring everybody together. And I would not be wrong if maybe there is. Maybe there just needs to be more awareness about it. There needs to be a platform that brings everybody together. Everybody needs to be on the same page, and everybody needs to kind of have the same goal. Because the issue is there's a disconnect between each party and everything, and everyone is putting the blame on the pharmaceutical industry. Even uh, in science, the professors in universities, they still kind of blame like the industry. We don't want to have anything to do with the industry and everything. But until they come together and communicate and actually be honest, and I feel like that's only when the public can gain the trust, or they can gain the trust of the public. Until then, it's still going to be a problem.
Do you think pills or any type of like hardcore, I guess, prescription drugs for pain should be more regulated? It seems like that they're pretty easily tossed out. Like I mean, if we really want to talk about it,
I might not be the best person, like as an immigrant. I'm still learning everything about America, but so I don't really know how like regulated it is here.
well, shift it back to Nigeria. Like, how regulated is it over there compared to over here?
Oh man, it's not.
That's
It's
exactly
horrible.
how it is here. It's like putting in 25 cents in a gumball machine. You're getting anything you want, basically. Like
It's horrible.
my doctor's like, you ever heard Zoloft? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna write you a prescription for it. I'm like, I don't really want to take that. He's like, you sure? It's gonna help. Why don't you go pick it up? I'm
Oh
like, oh
man,
my God.
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, compared to Nigeria, I feel like this place is more regulated. Because Nigeria, even antibiotics are not regulated. You can just walk in and ask for an antibiotic; they'll give it to you.
I mean,
Yeah,
Advil, Aleve, and Tylenol. I mean, you're giving it to kids younger and younger. Back in the day, it was like, no, 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 that's bad for you. That's bad for you. Now it's like my little cousin's like, I had 3 Advil this morning. I had a headache. I was like, what are you doing? You're 11 years old. You know, if you have a headache, you sat home, had some fucking chicken noodle soup, some
yeah,
dry
get some sleep.
some dry saltine crackers. You took a nap and got over it. I remember so many times in school, I would go to the nurse sick, and the nurse would be like, "Go lie down." That was the answer to everything. Go lie down.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Even myself, as a pharmacist, uh, drugs are usually the last resort for me. Like if I have a headache right now, I think I try to sleep first, maybe rest, and probably stress, drink some water, and then if it's still not going away, then I will then take an Advil or something. But like I don't just do that first, because yeah. Um, but yeah, you're right. You're right.
What would you say, like, your prediction maybe in like the next couple of years would be with pharmaceuticals? Do you think it's going to get better or it's going to get worse? I think like, man, it's just difficult to talk about that just
It's
because of the
so, yeah.
I mean, it's just so it's we're so borderline with it. Like, could it go maybe even it could get worse? But I'm like, a lot of people are waking up to the issue of how pharmaceuticals are. But I think a lot of the times now it's going to get like this protest or this thing against it, and it's like, hang on a second, there are some people out there that are dealing with something that only a high basically prescription drug can fix. Like if
Yes.
you're on stage 4 of something, or if you're,
Yes.
instead of doing surgery, or if you're something's keeping you alive. I mean, a lot of elderly people, I mean, they have a pill counter for every day of the week, which
Mhm.
is kind of scary because they pop them like Tic Tacs. Like I think my grandfather takes like 40 before he even wakes up. Like he's
Wow.
doing his coffee and he's pulling up all these pills. He's like, "Don't get old." I'm like, I hope someone kills me by I'm
Don't
30.
get old.
Because if that's what it's like to be 60, I don't want to be 60. He's like, yeah, it's not fun.
Oh.
He's like, you ever heard of fiber? I'm like, yes, I've heard of fiber. He's like, I take 4 supplements for that one. I'm like, why don't you just eat a box of Raisin Bran? He's like, I don't like the taste.
I'm like, oh, okay, okay,
He's a stubborn man, but he's a smart one. Let me tell you something.
right. I mean, you can't really, you can't trick old age, right? We gotta age. I guess the best thing you can do is just do your best and live a good life. I don't know, live a good lifestyle while you're young, and hopefully your body will help you when you're old. That's the best thing I can say. But sometimes you just people have things. Some people come up with that. People have genetic diseases, cancer. Sometimes it's not really about even how good you take care of yourself. Some things just happen. That I just call it life. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Would you
Um.
would you try and go up against any of these like insurance agencies? It seems like
Oh my God.
with a lot of
Maybe in the near future, the well near future. Maybe in the future, because I mean I would like I said at the beginning, I really want to get involved in science policy, and I feel like that's also a way to kind of get into the face of these insurance companies, because I feel like they are really killing people indirectly in America. It's crazy. Even myself here, as an international student, I have insurance, right? But my insurance covers like nothing.
well,
Nothing.
hey, look, I mean, I'm not going to talk trash about Baltimore. I love Baltimore. I mean, I got the accent from Baltimore, but when it comes to that is a giant area with a huge opioid problem. I think
Right. That is correct. I see it.
yeah, and I think what's important is when I ask you these questions, you discredit yourself. You go like, "Oh, I don't know because I'm still new here." That passion's going to drive you. You're one of these people in this industry that is someone that seems like they would take it to the forefront. They would
Well,
fight for something like
I
this, and I think
would.
that's
I
important.
just don't have the power right now, right? Because you kind of need to be in that some, yeah, yeah. I mean, I came to America for a reason, right? I love the US. That's why I came here, even amidst all the negative things happening and everything. And I still decided to come, and that's because I believe in the country, even though it's, yeah. I don't want to get into politics right now,
Well,
but
we are. I think right now at this point is a bad time to come over here, especially the past couple of years have been kind of going downhill.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I
But
think we're trying to find a foundation, I think is the
mhm,
most important thing. We built for so many years on top of a really, really crappy foundation, like one made of sticks. And I
yeah.
think now we're all starting to notice. So now it's like going back to the beginning again. We're going to have to lay that foundation down and
It's
start building it with
gonna have to
stone.
be late. Yes, exactly. Until that is done, this whole thing is just gonna keep going on and on again.
So, what do you typically try and show or teach people a different side of things, like involved with your page and all too? It seems like you're putting up a lot of information on there as well. Like, are you trying to educate people, or are you just trying to show people that you can do it? Or
It's both, right? It's literally everything, and it's still developing. The page is like a year plus now. Yeah. So initially, I opened it just to show people what I do, because many people, let me even start from my own family. They're like, so what's up? What are you doing? How was school today? I'm like, oh, I was in the lab, and they're like, okay, so what did you do? I'm like, I did this, I did that. I grew some cells, and they're like, okay, boring. I don't know what you're saying. Um, so many people don't even understand what I'm doing. So I just thought, let me open a page and actually show people what it feels like to be in the lab, what it feels like to be a scientist in the lab. Because many people think scientists are just like, I don't know, you wear glasses, um, yeah, they keep to themselves, they don't talk to anybody. Many people just have this stereotype about scientists. And I just wanted to also show that no, we are people. We actually interact with people if you want to talk.
I've had
And
some good conversations with people with doctorate degrees and PhDs,
right,
and I've had some
right.
one where I'm like, "How did you get a PhD?" You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
difference between street smarts and book smarts, but
exactly, exactly. So I just wanted to do that. And then at the same time, I also wanted to just educate people and motivate and encourage people like me, so as a Black woman in STEM. Because I know a lot of people, even from home, that text me or message me like, "Oh, I love your page. I would like to, do a PhD someday. I'm interested in STEM." And it makes me happy because I'm like, okay, great. So it means that what I'm doing is actually encouraging and inspiring people to want to do it. because some people just feel like it's too big for them and they cannot do it. And thankfully, I'm lucky to say I come from a family where my parents finished high school and that was it. But I have five siblings, so six of us. They made sure that we got the education we wanted, and whatever you want to do, they would encourage you to do it and go for it, and nothing should stop you. So yeah,
Would
I
you
just
say
wanted
that
to
your
do
parents
that.
have probably been like the most supportive in your just dreams? Like, how are they here with you, or they still back home?
So all of my parents, all of my family, my parents and my siblings, everybody's home. Is back home. I'm the only one here.
How hard is that for you to deal with that? Oh my God. I mean,
Yeah,
now you want to talk about being homesick. That's got to be homesick.
yeah, you're right. It's it's hard, but it's hard. There's nothing else to say. It's hard, but I get by. Just once in a while. Once in a while, I do get homesick.
I think
Um,
you brought up a good point, though, about the women in STEM thing. I see a benefit of having these groups. It's just, I see too many groups nowadays. Like, it's all like hashtag black, hashtag, whatever.
it's really burden right now. Yes, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
and I'm seeing it everywhere, and I'm so passionate for people where I look at it and I understand, being white, I guess, there's some people that toss out like you don't know what it's like or you don't know. I get it. I'm sorry, but I treat everyone so equal and so much the same in a matter of respect that I'm like, I see some groups where people are like, you're not allowed to be in here because you're not part of this. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. I'm interested and I want to be involved. And I think the women in STEM thing, like, that's one that's really scary because I'm like, people say they don't want a scientist who's a girl. It's like I've heard a lot of people talk about. I'm like, I would want that before because I already know I'm a guy. And when I
right,
was in school, you know who did better? Girls did better. The reason why was because they paid attention. I was sitting there thinking about what the hell I was going to do, what I was going to have like a taquito or something later that night.
right.
I'm like, I'd rather, like, the only time I ever choose my doctor is on the basis of one question. Do they have soft hands? That's it. I got a guy doctor this time. I don't care. As long as I can have that comedic value in a doctor's office, like, because I want it. It's uncomfortable for everybody.
Right.
I think that's the main important. Like, we need Patch Adams people, not people that are gonna. I don't know if you're familiar with Patch Adams.
No, I don't. I'm not.
It's Robin Williams played in a movie where he was a doctor of comedy, basically making kids laugh in the hospital. And what he would like, all these kids would start feeling better. And he apparently laughter is linked to comedy, which I mean, there's a emotional value to it. But
Mhm.
I think when you're in like a doctor's office, a lot of the times there's this weight that's in the room, like an
Yeah,
awkward feeling and
yeah,
kind of like a weird tension. And I'm like, I want to get that out of there. Like, I wanna as soon as I'm in there, they're hooking up the heart monitor thing to me, and they're doing all, like, the checking your whatever, your heartbeat, and then giving you your temperature, and she goes, like, under your tongue, and I'm like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna stick it somewhere else," and, like, just to hear that little chuckle or something
yeah,
stupid like that, like, I enjoy that because then they start smiling, then it gets comfortable, and I love it when they do this depression test now, where they're like, do you feel sad every
mhm.
day, somewhat every day, almost every day, or maybe every once in a while? I'm like, every day. And then like she's like reading off the whole list. I'm like, it's a 10 out of 10 on all these questions. And I'm like laughing about it. It makes their day a little bit easier too.
That's
I mean,
true. I agree.
just like a pharmacist, they get put under an umbrella too, that they're like this, they're like that. I'm like, it's because of the fact is the medical industry, which you're getting involved in, is now suffering a huge hit
Yeah,
from 17 or 2018 was the mark of when it was going to slowly start decreasing. A lot of the older generation that is now going to retire. I mean,
right.
my grandfather is always he works at a hospital, so he's like he's a janitor. Don't give him any credit. I don't even think
Oh,
he
I do
cleans.
give him credit.
I don't even think he cleans. He's like, they got me in the Corona ward. I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, I gotta do gloves and all this stuff. I used to pick up shit with my bare hands. I'm like, I don't want to know that. You're ruffling through my hair right now.
Oh my
And
God.
but he talks about all these new doctors that are coming in, and I'm like, so how is it shifting, like, I guess the pool in the hospital? And he just goes off, he goes saying, they seem like they're really interested into it, but I know this is going to be broken out of them in like a year. And I'm like,
Oh my god, the fact that he actually like is like, yeah, that's just what happened.
well, he's
That's
been
sad.
there for
I
30
know.
something years,
Oh
so
my
he's
god.
seen it all
You're
happen. He's
seeing
like,
it.
it's like a teacher though. When a teacher first start, that first class they teach is never like the other classes they teach.
Yeah.
After a while, it's like, all right, I'm just teaching these kids who are going to move on and forget about me. It's like, but that impression lasts to that person, which I think is need to be kind of noted.
Yeah. The system is crazy.
Well, even when we're dealing with the pharmaceutical side, like the research side, what's your favorite part about it?
Oh, my favorite part of the research side, I think it's the. I mean, I love doing experiments, so I think it's the experiments part, the being in the lab and actually doing the experiments. That's my favorite part.
All right, you got to give me an experiment here. I'm talking about, are we talking about cutting pigs open, or are we talking about looking through a microscope and creating a new drug? I would be interested in that one if you have anything that could make me super fast, super strong, and super intelligent.
Okay, I don't have the super intelligent one. I don't have the super fast one too, but
You have the super
I
strong one?
would
Is that PCP? What is it?
maybe. We're gonna have to talk about that privately. But yeah, my favorite part is because when you're doing an experiment or as a researcher, the first thing you need to do is ask a question. So when you're asking a question, you're asking a question about something that's already known in the field, and then you're trying to advance that thing, for example. So let me just give an example on my project as a PhD student. So I'm going to be working on the dengue virus, and um, so the dengue virus causes a dengue fever in some parts of South America and South Asia. So I'm going to be trying to understand the dengue virus and trying to understand how I can work on the virus to come up with a new vaccine. So there is a vaccine already approved by the FDA for dengue virus, but because there are four types of the virus, what happens is that when you give the vaccine, um, and the patient is infected with one particular type of the virus, and the vaccine works for that one type. If the patient is infected with the second type or a second type of the virus, there's some sort of resistance that happens, and then the vaccine is no longer efficient. So there's still a lot of need to study the virus and come up with either a vaccine or a drug. So that's the question. So I'm gonna have to try and ask questions on how I can be able to develop something, and then I have to do experiments. So meaning I have to take so there's something called the polymerase. So there are viruses that have so the way human beings have DNA, right? We have DNA, which is our genetic blueprint. Viruses also have their own genetic blueprint. Some of them carry their own blueprint in what is called an RNA. And then, and just like the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2, when they infect the humans, they actually bring their own DNA or their genetic information into the human. And then they have something called a polymerase. And the polymerase helps to make a lot of copies of the viral DNA or the viral RNA because humans don't have the machinery for making the multiple copies of the virus. So the virus actually brings its own tools for making everything. It's like, don't worry, I got you. I just need you as a host. I got everything I need to make many copies of myself. And then when it makes copies of itself, and then it just multiplies and goes to infect other cells in the body. Um, so I just have to come up with different experiments. There's something called X-ray crystallography, and that's solving the atomic structure of
Say that 3 times fast, please.
okay, X-ray crystallography. I can see it. X-ray crystallography is when you try to solve atomic structures of protein and stuff. And then so I'm going to be doing that. I'm also going to be doing a lot of basic research like mass spectrometry. So mass spectrometry is another technique that you use to identify things like proteins and carbohydrates and lipids. So I'm also going to be doing that. There's also something called hydrogen deuterium exchange. I don't want to get too technical right here because I kind of
I'm
start
already
to.
glazing over a little bit. I'm trying to keep with it. I'm
But
pretty good at listening. Um, I
Okay.
think this is just like a lot of people don't understand. Like, I mean, when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs and you're bringing a side of things, I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in hearing is the side of like the research part of how difficult it
Yeah.
is to be able to narrow down a vaccine based on what you were talking about with, first of all, our
Exactly.
DNAs being so completely different. My
Yeah.
DNA and your DNA are going to be two separate beings. For instance, I don't get sick from coronavirus. I don't know if
Mhm.
I've already have it or I
Mhm.
have just not susceptible to it. Um,
Right.
which a lot of people it's not the case. A lot of people they're dealing with things, but I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. I just don't think I think the way we're going right now with the coronavirus, I think
Mhm.
that if a vaccine does come out, I'm not going to be the first one to get it. I want to wait a few months only because that's how I Am Legend happened. They had a
Yeah.
cure for cancer, and then 6 months later, all the people that got the cure turned into zombies. I'm like, I'm gonna wait and let this thing work out. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. I know what you mean. I
I
know
mean,
what you mean.
it's difficult because like people are always anti-vaxxy. I'm like, I get where it helps a flu shot. I mean, I don't know how many times. I mean, I get it if you don't want to get a flu shot. I mean, when I was a little kid, I got like 4 flu shots at once, and then I was sitting in a
Mhm.
bathtub when I was like 6, and I was like had the band-aids on, so I didn't want anybody touching it because when you rip a band-aid off, it hurts.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, my mom being like, "Yeah, well, we gotta take those Band-Aids off." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, just not now. I'd rather wait until, like, they, like, get really, really, like, I'll lose elasticity or whatever so I can rip it off." And then, she's like, "Oh, it's okay. Hey, can you reach that for me?" And I would reach over to grab something. She would rip. I'm like, "Holy, like, you tricked me." And she's like, "That wasn't that hard." I was like, "It hurt." And she goes, "Oh, it's okay. Hey, can you grab that?" What? Rip. Did that 4
Your father is so savage.
I was like, "Damn, I fell for it 4 times." But, like, those are probably the only reasons why I would be like, "Oh, I can see why you would hate them." But I think when it comes to a benefit of maybe not being susceptible, but also spreading a disease, I mean, the whole reason
Mhm.
I wear a mask in the store right now is for other people, it's not for me. I
You're
mean,
right.
everyone talks about the stigma behind like this is really weird. You're seeing people that are pro mask and people that are not for it, and businesses that don't care if you wear it or not. Now it's creating like a politician divide where people are hating each other if they're not wearing a mask or if they are wearing a mask. We're getting separated into two teams. I'm like, hang on a
It's
second. Hang on
it's
a second.
interesting.
We are people. Let's not forget, if you wear a mask or if you don't wear a mask, we're still people. No need to hate each
Right.
other. Don't throw a brick at each other.
I don't know. I think people always try to tie everything to political reason, like like you just said. Like we are people. You don't have to hate each. I don't know. It's yeah,
Welcome to this. It seems like this is a lot of stress. It's out of the blank. You can talk about aliens if you want.
yeah. It's yeah. Wow. I don't know. I just
It's a complicated world, Juliet. That's what.
it's it's
That's really the best way. And I mean, I give you so much respect, so much credit, for first of all wanting to come over here and wanting to pursue your dream, or at least pursue a good career path. I think people like you are needed, young scientists especially. I'm seeing all over Instagram now that are really, I think, for so long the main influence or main attention in the social media eye was like famous celebrities like what's Tom Cruise doing this weekend. Now it's like, oh, we're seeing normal people doing a job that is pretty not known about or pretty like kind of complicated in people's minds and showing
yes.
a different side of it, which is very important. I mean, experts of writing, people that are into theology, philosophy, people that are into pharmacology. I think this is an important side of things because I mean, who doesn't love seeing like on Instagram or on Facebook a photo of an EMT working and showing a different side that a lot of people don't get to see?
That is true. That is true. And that's, this is a world of social media right now. I feel like let's just use it for good and not just only for the fun, but we can use that fun and use it to educate people in the midst of the fun. So,
What would
yeah.
you typically, I guess, see yourself doing in the next couple of years? Like, what's your goal for this? Like, do you want to discover your own cure or discover your own drug, or are you trying to just make? the world more open to this form of medicine that we've been using for so long? Even though you want to complain about it, you still use a pill. Like all these people that are like, "Oh, pharmacies are terrible," and I'm like, "You're taking 30 pills before you wake up, Grandpa. Why are you going to sit there and crap on pharmacies? You're basically running on pills at this point." He's like, "Shut up, shut up."
But yeah, I think my goal has been evolving over the years. Like before, well, while I was still in pharmacy school and before I even got out of pharmacy school, my goal was like, I want to do research. I want to be a scientist. I want to discover a new drug. It was all up in my head. But when I came in reality, I just had to come back to reality. I'm like, okay, so in the life of a scientist, typically, let's be true to ourselves. You hardly discover a new drug. For example, the life or the timeline for actually discovering a new drug goes from 20 to 25 years, actually, because the thing or something has to be discovered for first of all from research. It has to, after you've discovered it as a scientist, it has to go through preclinical trials, and that's mouse animal studies. It has to pass animal studies. After it has passed animal studies, it then has to go through clinical trials, which is human studies, and literally like between 1 to 5% usually passes for human studies. After human studies, it has to then go through the manufacturing, and then it has to go through different phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And after phase 3, sometimes even when you send drug to the market, you always have the adverse drug reactions, and then sometimes you have to call the drug back. So it usually takes like between 20 to 25 or even 30 years. So realistically, that means that as a research, I mean, the PhD is like between 4 to 6 years in America. So really, realistically, for your PhD, you would not discover a drug. Okay, so I learned that, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do the best I can. I'm going to try my best and make sure that whatever it is I do is going to advance or is going to contribute to the knowledge that is already known, and that someone can take it up from there and just keep going. And then right now, my goal is just to educate people. And I do, when I finish my PhD, I do want to work in the pharmaceutical industry as a scientist. And then I also think I want to go into science policy. That's something I'm also thinking about. But things change. Right now, I do want to work uh, in the research and development industry to to develop drugs. And yeah, that's what I think
Now,
I want to do
if I was
right
going to
now.
say, instead of changing the mind of people, what would be an improvement that you have already noticed that you could be doing to, I guess, improve this industry?
I think it should be openness. I think the industry is too. They tend to be very private, and I feel like I understand because there's a lot of competition between different industries, and everybody's trying to just be private and everything. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of transparency that I don't see.
A better explanation of the drug that people are taking.
Right, right. There needs to
Because
be more
they're pretty
transparency.
scary when you hear about them in a commercial. I mean, I think there used to be a skincare product back in the day. I think it was Proactive or something, or Acti Clear or something. And it's
Yeah.
like it's three girls walking and smiling. Like, I used to have really bad acne. Then I took this, and then like
Uh,
the background voice that's telling you all the side effects is like, you will experience severe bloody diarrhea or heart attack, or
yeah,
you will
that.
die, or even go blind. It's like, hang
Mm,
on a second. That doesn't sound like anything I want. I mean, a pimple's a pimple, but I don't want to lose my vision.
yeah, that's true. It's like for every ad, it's like for one thing the drug does is like 20 things that is like you're gonna experience this and this and this. You're right. I agree with you. I don't know. They have to do something about those ads. It's something. It's
Well, I learned about drug classification and pharmacology in school when I was trying to do like addiction recovery classes for chemical
right.
dependency. And
Yeah.
I think I was way more interested in it when someone was actually explaining to me, like, here's this pill. What this
Mhm.
pill does, it's made up of this and this.
Mhm.
It also, and then like once learning more about it and learning about the actual effects and what it does to like
Yes.
the proteins or
Yeah.
what it does to certain things in your body, I was like, wow, this is way better. Like, I actually understand it a little bit more. And I think the problem is understanding. People just get a bad view and don't want to ever research or get the knowledge behind it. I'm like, let's
Exactly what you just said. What you
let's
said.
yeah, let's learn why Advil is so helpful. What goes into Advil that makes you not have headaches or not have pain? Why are we taking it? Why are we just living by what the bottle says? Let's try and do our own research and figure out, like, stay away from all the conspiracy articles that tell you Advil leads to the Illuminati, but also just look into, like, hey, oh, it's made up of this and this. And that's why I think turns into holistic healing is when people start taking certain ingredients and mixing them together to make that same drug, basically, but it just doesn't have the same impact.
Exactly. Exactly. You're right. So yeah, it's education. Education is gonna go a long way, and yeah, we can do so much. But also, the people we're talking to, they also need to be willing to listen. Like you said, you said you're always, wanting to listen, but there's not everybody is like that. I have a friend who, we're good friends, but we have completely different views. He just believes that the pharmaceutical industry is a scam. He just thinks they just want to kill everybody, with drugs. It's interesting. Sometimes, we always, fall into argument, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to stop, because whatever I say right now, I can't change your mentality. That's just what you believe in, you know. So I think people also need to be willing to have an open mind and be willing to actually learn and listen. Like even me myself, like as a scientist, when someone comes to me with something, like I'm still waiting to listen to the person. Like, okay, I want to listen to what you have to say and think about it, and then I'm gonna go do my own research, and then after that, I'll make an informed decision. So
That's
it's
exactly
all
how
about
I try and live my life, Juliet. Let me tell you something. The best way to explain that is just to tell people the way I think of it is the fact is I look at everybody like a blank slate and everybody's got a pencil. Okay. So whatever information they see or whatever information they've come across, they're going to write down on that piece of paper as information that gets soaked up into their brain. So you got to
yeah,
think if I put you in a different area than where I'm at, then we're going to write down two completely different sides of information. So just understand, you don't have to agree with the person, but
exactly.
see that perspective, because then you're like, "Oh, that's why you think that way. Oh,
Mhm.
that's why you think the government is hiding aliens from us. I get it. I get it." It's like just understand that perspective. I see, like, one thing for you is you should be taking trips to some schools around here, young, like, I mean, middle schoolers, and start
I
showing
used
them
to do
this.
that. I used to do that when I was in Nigeria. I did that a lot, but okay, now you tell me not to discredit myself. But yeah, it's something I really want to do. But once again, it's more like I need to kind of identify platforms that I can use to do that. So actually, at the University of Maryland, Baltimore here, there's a UMB Cure Scholars Program. So what they do is to encourage high schoolers and middle schoolers who are interested in STEM. So you can actually sign up to be a mentor. So I signed up to be a mentor, and so I actually every Saturday I go and I talk to middle schoolers, I talk to high schoolers, and I kind of like tutor them for whatever help they need, and then just kind of so they also match you with a middle schooler or a high schooler to be your mentee, and then you kind of just help the person and you talk to the person and everything. So it's also something I that was like the first thing I even looked for when I came here, and I found it, and I'm also looking for like more opportunities to do that. But yeah, you're right. It's something I'm very passionate about, to talk to people uh, and help people understand what I'm doing and what they could also do.
What age do you feel is the best to start giving them this information? Like, where would you typically choose if I gave you any list or any grade or any type of age group to teach? What do you think would be the benefit? Like, they can't be too young to where they wouldn't soak up the information. Because if you said,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
I'm too
22. If
young.
you said boron or whatever, some type of prescription name for a drug like bidefulmitrafate or something, I'm going to look at you like, what did you just say? Is that a list of chewing gum?
I think the middle schoolers age, because I talk to middle schoolers, and they, I think I think at that time range for middle schoolers is the best for them, because I think that's also when they're able to even take in new knowledge. Uh,
They're more like choosing their path and trying to find out
yeah,
what's real and what's not.
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's the best time to start. And obviously, when you're talking to them, you have to, because when I talk to them, I, I don't, depending on my audience, depending on who I'm talking to, I change like how or who what I'm saying. So I break everything down to like the last bit. That's also a part of science communication that is hard. Like imagine what I just said to you, like, okay, for example, and I say, what am I doing for my project? And I'm like, oh, I'm using hydrogen deuterium exchange mass spectrometry to understand the conformational changes of a protein. I'm like, what? Okay, I have to talk to a middle schooler. How do I explain that to a middle schooler?
What
So that
type of science did you just speak?
I just spoke the science that I would say if I'm talking to my supervisor.
You got to say, this is Jim. Jim's a drug, and this is how Jim
Exactly.
works.
Exactly. So I have to break that down, and if I'm talking to a middle schooler, I have to explain, maybe look for something like an art or something, just find the character and then just break it down for them to understand.
Well,
That's actually, for me, that's the hard part. Of,
yeah, it's like trying to teach rocket science to like a toddler at some points. I mean, even for older people, it's hard for them to soak up that information as well. I'm not saying people are stupid. I'm just saying it's hard for people to get interested in something that we don't really have a care or knowledge for. We just want the pill. We don't care how it works.
You're right, and I understand that too, because for example, like I have a friends who are lawyers, for example, like when they start speaking all this whole constitution, one federal, I'm like, okay, you're losing me. I'm not interested. I don't want to hear what you're saying. Like it's just, yeah, it's total like rocket science to me if they start coming up with those things, constitution and the code, this or that. I did a science ethics. You have to do ethics and stuff in science. So we also have ethics in science, and you have to also know some science laws and stuff like that. And I still find those ones hard because I feel like it's just something that is not my forte.
You know what,
So
Juliet?
yeah,
I have faith in you, and I think that you're definitely going to be able to do this. I think the whole factor is you're one of the few people I've talked to in this industry that's pretty passionate about it. At least as willing to kind of do your part when it comes to trying to educate people on something that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, I'm not trying to give you like, inflate your ego or anything, but the whole aspect of like taking a trip over from your original home, coming over here, moving here, pursuing a career path, and then also still being beneficial and seeing that there's a lot of things going on in the industry. And I think the biggest thing you highlighted was communication. That's all
yes,
it ever is. That is the most important thing I think a lot of people leave out. And I think with thinking like that, just don't lose it. I mean, it's going to be difficult. Obviously, roads and life is hard, especially with what's going on in the world. But that's so important to have is that that because I mean that's what my grandpa talked about by beating down or losing it after a year or two. It
mhm,
The people that truly care about something don't ever lose that, and I really hope this. Like in the next 5 years or so, I'm gonna be reading about you on the news. She discovered a cure. Her name is
mhm.
Juliet, and she called it Julian Julian triclosamine. And what happens
Oh
is you take it and you become super strong, super fast, and super intelligent like PCP.
yes,
Well,
amen to that.
well,
You.
I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Juliet. I really want to give you
Thank
here a
you.
minute at the end to be able to promote your content, promote your Instagram page, anywhere you want people to find you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Robert.
Robbie.
Robbie, yes, thank you so much for inviting me here. And just so you know, this is my ever first podcast invite, and I'm very, very happy
I
to be
hope it was
invited.
uncomfortable for you.
It
I'm just
was
kidding.
not, it was very uncomfortable. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you would like to um, learn about my science and what I do, I have a science page on Instagram. It's called Quinine in Science, literally Quinine. So Quinine _in _science. Um, yeah, you literally find everything about me there.
I'm going to make sure I link everything in the description, Juliet, so they can find you. And I really appreciate you being on the podcast. And thank you for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank.